and I was on a team with a lot of lawyers, and I was a young associate. And that what really, came to light for me is how much I wanted to lead the trial and how much I wanted to call all the shots. But because of my stature in the firm, I couldn't. And so it really, spotlighted the idea of starting my own firm where I can call the shots. And so all that to say is because of that, that trial really led me to want to handle cases my own way, because going back to what I said before, not necessarily if I had handled the whole thing would the outcome be.
Hello, and welcome to the Attorney Post, your guide to the inside scoop when it comes to all things legal. And now, here's our host, Justin West.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Attorney Post, where we discuss what's going on in various facets of the law with attorneys at the top of their game to help you navigate the ins and outs of the various legal fields and jurisdictions. Because, as I always say, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. Today, I'm very pleased to be joined by Devon Williamson, the founder of DevonLaw in Tennessee. Devon, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Well, let's jump over, as we always do, and take a look at Devon's site first. You can find her online at devonlawtn.com. That's devonlawtn.com. We will have a link in the description down below. Should be one of the very first things you see. You can also give her a phone call at 615-623-0232. And we're going to get into talking about what she does. She's got a lovely looking firm, and I think she's probably got some wonderful experience, and I'm really excited to kind of dig into some of that today. Before we get started, as always, we do have a couple of sponsors. Our sponsor number one is Groove Funnels. If you love spending $5,000 to $10,000 to build a brand new website, and you also enjoy paying $200 to $300 a month for hosting on a platform that lets you sell products to your potential customers or clients, then by all means keep doing whatever it is you're doing. But if you're like me, I hate that stuff. And that's why I personally recommend Groove Pages, the all-new, all-in-one website funnel sales platform from internet marketing legend Mike Filsaime. Visit theattorneypost.com/groove to sign up for free and build a complete site at no cost. Completely free, really, truly no cost. In fact, I believe you can actually build up to 3 fully functioning websites that allow you to sell things to people. Visit theattorneypost.com/groove. They have a huge list of apps for their platform that turns it into a webinar platform, sales platform, website, funnel, affiliate program, basically anything you can think of. It's really a Swiss Army knife of a tool. And again, getting started with it is completely free. Visit theattorneypost.com/groove. Our second sponsor at the top of the hour is nationalerc.org. You may have just noticed the world went through a pandemic not that long ago, and many businesses were forced to shut down, had reduced hours and supply chain issues and interruptions, and ultimately suffered from reduced revenue in 2020 and 2021. What you may not have known is that Congress passed the CARES Act, which allocated $400 billion in stimulus funds for small businesses that never needs to be paid back. This is not a loan like the PPP or Paycheck Protection Program. This is free money for your business that could be spent in whatever way you think makes the most sense. Right now, nationalerc.org is helping small businesses get the maximum amount of money that they can, and you can calculate and see how much you can get back by visiting nationalerc.org. The average small business they work with gets back over $200,000 to invest in their business. They've actually helped over $1.3 billion in refunds get back to small business owners. Again, there's no cost to use the calculator. It's completely free, and there's never any fee unless they secure funding for you. Visit nationalerc.org. Alrighty, well, Devon, good to talk with you today. I know that we've got kind of a tight schedule, so I'm going to try to get through some of these questions quickly here. I'm going to be respectful of your time. She is the founder, Devon, of DevonLaw, and she has dedicated her career to representing clients with a heart and with determination. Starting as a prosecutor with extensive courtroom experience, she ensures her clients are treated with respect and compassion. Devon is not only recognized as one of America's top trial lawyers for Tennessee, but she also holds accolades such as Pro Bono Service Award and the top 40 under 40 lawyers in Tennessee. Additionally, she played a pivotal role in organizing the Nashville Bar Association's high school mock trial competition, has been instrumental in charity events like the annual Race Judaica. Devon also earned her JD from Belmont College in 2017, holds a bachelor's degree in communications and media studies from the University of Alabama in 2014. Question number one I have for you, that was kind of a mouthful to say, but I'm sure I missed some things. So Devon, what did I miss?
Actually, I mean, you caught a lot of it, but I guess what recent developments have happened in my life is I was recently nominated and accepted into the Nashville Bar Foundation Leadership Forum class. it basically is a program full of, I think there's like 15 to 20 people in my class, attorneys practicing from like, I think 3 to 7 years of law, who are obviously very involved in the community. And it's a program that kind of showcases all the current and just current legal issues that are going on in Nashville, and it spotlights these issues that Nashville is facing. So us attorneys and community leaders can get involved, learn, and see what we can do to help. So it's a 9-month program. We meet once a month, and it's very collaborative and it's very impactful to Nashville's community. And so that's something that I'm doing right now. But otherwise, my prosecutor background was really a big part of my experience starting off as a lawyer practicing law. I really rely heavily on a lot of that courtroom experience as to what I use for my job now, which is personal injury, which I'm in trial still, but not as much as I was as a prosecutor. So a lot of that confidence and evidentiary, rulings and skills, learning on my feet, I acquired a lot of that during my time as a prosecutor. But otherwise, no, you pretty much got it all. I'm doing personal injury now, which is something that I never not want to do. I love it. It's the area of law that I actually find a passion in. So that's what I'm doing now. And that's what DevonLaw does, is personal injury, car accident, dog bite cases, really anytime someone is seriously very injured through no fault of their own.
Gotcha. Well, that leads into my next question, is give me your pitch. Why, tell me everything that you do. Tell me what area or areas you serve, and why do people choose to work with you or have you represent them?
So I noticed after I was a prosecutor, I worked for a couple firms, and I noticed that like the firm atmosphere just wasn't for me. I noticed a lot of times my competitors, like the bigger law firms, they don't have that personalized attention towards their clients. My MO is that I literally make myself available 24/7 to my clients. I've been advised against that, but I really find it fulfilling to provide that kind of service, because when people are very injured, they lose limbs, they lose family members, they lose, their ability to work, all these different things. I find that that's when they need me the most, in those vulnerable times. So basically, my service is I walk through it with you. I'm always there for you. I'm always communicating with you. You never have a hard time getting a hold of me. You never have a hard time seeing emotion come out of me. I welcome emotions. Obviously, you want to balance with all different kinds of emotions, but I think that having emotion and showing it can be very fruitful for your case, and humanizing, your clients, and humanizing the law in front of juries. So I welcome emotion, when historically a lot of lawyers, I feel like, want to suppress that or just make it very black and white with how they handle cases. But I kind of take my clients as they are. I embrace them, and I just that compassion and constant communication is there with me, as well as detail. I'm very detail oriented, so it's really hard for things to get past me because I outwork everybody. So I've got all the qualities that I think are ripe for a successful outcome for my clients' cases.
Gotcha. So what got you into law? Were you the type of girl that just grew up knowing that she wanted to be an attorney, or is it something that you kind of accidentally fell into and found you had a knack for? And what got you into PI in particular?
So all great questions. I never wanted to be a lawyer growing up. My dad's an attorney. He practices family law in Florida, where I'm from. And I always thought it was like he was cool looking when he would come home in a suit and whatnot, but I was never intrigued as to what he was doing. Maybe I should have been, because I could have started learning it a lot way back when, but I never had a knack for practicing law. Really, it was after I majored in public relations, minored in creative writing in college, and I was approaching the junior year, and you're kind of realizing, oh, well, what am I really going to do with this kind of degree? But I didn't want to do another victory lap or anything. I wanted to get my degree and maybe just get another education. And my dad kind of talked me into going to law school. He said, well, can't hurt to educate yourself further. There's a lot of ways you can use a law degree. I can be your mentor, da 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 da. And I said, sure, why not? So I went to law school, and I didn't really love law school because I just thought it was kind of like mundane and really academic in nature. But once I graduated law school and started practicing law, I fell in love with the profession. I loved all the stuff that I learned that I could actually use on my feet in the courtroom. It was a lot different than just sitting in a, classroom reading and having academic discussions, which law school is more than that. But I find that being on your feet and being and orally arguing and doing all these things, making all these decisions and helping people was really, really cool. And I had the ability to do that. And I loved being a prosecutor because I loved helping people who were victims of crimes. And now I do personal injury. So I help people who are victims of negligence. So I went from criminal law to civil law, but the same concept of helping people who were, living their lives and through no fault of their own, got injured. And so with regard to working for the state, I would help victims of crimes. And it just always felt right at the end of the day, helping those kind of people. So everything kind of transitioned over naturally that way. And now I'm doing PI, as I've stated, and I'm never going to look back. I love it so much.
That's awesome. I've been a big fan of PI for a long time. And I've said this, I actually just interviewed an attorney yesterday, and I said the exact same to him as well. Is I think you guys fill a real particular niche in society because there's a lot of people out there who are injured and don't know where to turn, don't know what to do, and they can't afford an attorney. The average hourly price for an attorney across the whole country is around $500 an hour. I know in bigger cities, especially on the coast as well. I don't know what it is in Tennessee. I know it can go a lot higher than that, depending. For most people, the idea of being able to afford an attorney is just like out there. Plus, I know how much time and effort and everything else goes into preparing one of these cases. You can spend, $50,000, $100,000 preparing a case sometimes. And most people just don't have the outlay to do that. So knowing that people like you are out there, I think is just absolutely amazing. I've always had nothing but the utmost respect for people in the injury attorney profession, even though I know you guys get a bad name, the ambulance chasers or whatnot, but I think that you really do fill a real niche in society that's very, very necessary. So I have nothing but respect for that. Let me ask you this though. I'm sure you've been practicing now for 5, 6, 7 years. 2017 is when you passed. So about 6 years. A little over half a decade of experience. I'm sure you've had some ups and downs in that time. One of my favorite questions to ask is just to ask about some of the downs. I'm a firm believer that failure can be one of our best teachers. And I'm sure you've probably had 1 or 2 setbacks. Maybe it's a case that didn't go your way. Maybe a witness said the wrong thing. Maybe you just forgot to fill out the paperwork the right way, whatever it is. But can you tell my listeners, Devon, about one of the times in your practice of law where you experienced something you would consider a failure? And what did it teach you? And how do you carry that forward to make sure you're taking the best care of your clients moving forward?
Right. So it was always hard losing trials, but the trials that you lose really are the ones that force you to look at everything that happened and what went wrong and what you could have done better. And obviously you should do that with every trial that, you put in front of a jury, but the ones that you lose are the ones that you obviously take a really special look at. And when I first started trying cases, there were a couple DUI cases that I lost. And I was still very new. So I try to give myself grace, but I really just what comes to mind is, hearing the not guilty verdict when, clearly that the person was very impaired driving. But that just because we know all these things and have all this evidence, it's not necessarily the evidence the jury can see due to like the rules of evidence in the law. So I would say the hardest times are when I've lost cases as a prosecutor. And also last year, I tried a really complicated products liability case in federal court. And those are always very difficult. And we had an uphill battle with proving, connecting a doctor's negligence to the manufacturer of the product, when there are different entities, one doctor works in a hospital in Mississippi and the manufacturer, is just a whole different entity, God knows where. So it was really difficult losing that trial last year as well. But I really learned a lot. And honestly, I learned that you can only control what you can control. And I was on a team with a lot of lawyers and I was a young associate. And that what really, came to light for me is how much I wanted to lead the trial and how much I wanted to call all the shots. But because of my stature in the firm, I couldn't. And so it really, spotlighted the idea of starting my own firm where I can call the shots. And so all that to say is because of that trial really led me to want to handle cases my own way, because going back to what I said before, not necessarily if I had handled the whole thing would the outcome be different, but I have strong beliefs about the case and I have strong beliefs that of the way I handle things, my work ethic, that things may have been differently, but that's in the past. And now I get to bring cases that I want to bring on to my firm and I can handle them the way I want to, and I can work them up the way I want to do it. And so it's really freeing to be able to do that. And, all those trials and tribulations in the past have brought me to where I am now. And I'm really grateful for
Gotcha.
that.
No, that makes perfect sense. Well, let me ask you the flip side of that coin. I'm sure you've had a couple of successes or victories that you're really proud of. Could be, a judgment came back way more than you expected it to be. Could be you thought you were going to lose a case and you guys won. I don't know what it happens to look like. It could be just that somebody's life was in pieces and you helped them put it back together. But what would you say is one or two of the big feathers in your cap, the things you're most proud of that you've been able to achieve in your legal career so far?
I'm really proud of, so I'm a big words of affirmation gal. So reading my Google reviews, which are all published, if you just Google DevonLaw and look at my reviews, it's absolutely amazing what people have written. I'm really proud of the way that I have, there we go. Yeah. And that review I'm really proud of. That was an amazing family. And that was a dog bite case that I handled. I'm really proud of the way that what I've learned is a lot of folks in Tennessee, a lot of PI attorneys don't really have the niche of doing dog bites because the laws are really unique, especially if the dog bite happens on the dog owner's premises. You have to prove that the dog owner knew or should have known that the dog was dangerous on prior occasions prior to the date that the dog bite issue occurred. So you have to be really creative in working that up, because a lot of times dog bites happen on the dog owner's premises or, apartment if they rent it or whatnot. So I'm really proud of the way that I've learned to handle dog bites and how I've kind of made that my niche. And that first review that you had shown was a family who got attacked by a Rottweiler in the middle of a street on their evening stroll with their baby. I think he was like 1 year old at that point in time. And yeah, they're great. And that's baby Beckett and Christina. They're wonderful people. And the way their case resolved was an unbelievable settlement that covered all of their needs. And what made me really happy was that they used the settlement money to build a fence around their house. So now roaming dogs Beckett can play outside and roaming dogs don't pose a danger to him. So hearing things like that and hearing what my clients do with their settlement and knowing like what it goes towards, and it was just an unbelievably, generous settlement, proper settlement, which you don't hear me say often because a lot of times insurance companies, they're not really eager to extend very fair settlements. I hate to say it, but in this case, it was a really good outcome. But yeah, I'm really proud of the way I've resolved cases for my clients. And when I read my Google reviews, that really reminds me of all that I've accomplished. And there's just so much more where that came from.
Awesome. We'll have a link to your Google My Business profile down below as well, so people can click over there and take a look at those reviews. I'm a big believer in great reviews, and I was looking through those. I actually already had them pulled up when you said it, which was funny because I often will look through the reviews of the people I'm interviewing. So awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Well, let me ask you one more kind of related question. I'm sure you've experienced some weird stuff in your tenure as an attorney. What's one of the most absurd things you've encountered? One of the things that just made you roll your eyes, or you couldn't believe it happened, or it's one of those stranger than fiction moments that nobody would have believed you if you weren't dealing with it directly. And if you told them that you made it up, they would be like, "That's totally unbelievable." What's one of the most absurd things you've dealt with?
Hmm. That's an interesting, I mean, every day is absurd, I feel like. Um, let's see. When I was a prosecutor, I had a lot of defendants. I was in Florida too, so I had a lot of interesting crimes being committed that I dealt with. I can't remember the name of this group, but I don't know if it was a religious group or what was it, but there's a name for it, but they don't believe in the law. Like they have a believe in a whole different kind of, for lack of a better term, like can of worms, like a whole different scripture or book of like a whole different way of living their life. I know there's a name for them. It's slipping my mind, but anyways, they whenever they came to court, they would start reading, I don't know, their scriptures, and they would counsel the judge on what laws apply to them. It just was a whole different world. It wasn't like reality. It was just people who like firmly believe that they don't believe in laws or that kind of how our society functions. So like I said, there's a name for them. And I know my fellow prosecutor colleagues who are watching this or will watch this will know the name of it. But it was always interesting when that group of folks would come into court and try to like, plead their case, and try to convince the judge that the laws don't apply to them. So like weird stuff like that, I remember would happen. I'm trying to think of any other like crazy things happening.
Like the sovereign citizens or
Yes, 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 yes. That's it. That's it. Sovereign citizens. Yes, thank you. Thank you. How did you know what I was talking about? Are you a sovereign citizen?
I could tell you, but then I'd have to take you to court. No, I honestly did a quick Google search. I was like, I wonder if I could just figure this out pretty quickly, and found it out
You
pretty quick.
did. That was it. Yeah, they would come in and they would like read off of whatever sovereign citizens believe in. They had some sort of I don't think it was the Bible, maybe it was. I don't believe it was. But anyways, whenever a sovereign citizen would come in, we would be like, "Oh boy, this is going to be interesting." And we never really got involved. The judge always just kind of handled them from the bench. But it was, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Whenever we would have those kind of defendants, yeah, that would be
Huh.
interesting day in court.
Well, I might put a link to an article about sovereign citizens because I that was going to bother me if I didn't know. Like this is such an interesting concept to want to know about. I was like,
Yeah,
I think of people outside of I think of like the Amish, but they'll go to hospitals, they'll pay their
right.
taxes, they're still within the system. They choose to live outside of the system, but they still submit to the laws. But this sounded like something totally different. I was like, I
Right.
wonder. So let's see. I learned something new today. So I love learning something
Thank
new.
you.
I'm a radical libertarian at heart, so I think I might have some empathy towards them. Doesn't mean I agree with them, but I might
Right.
have some empathy towards them. Not knowing anything about what they believe, and if there's some weird, religious mindset behind it, then I might have a few more bones to pick. But I can at least respect, wanting to be a sovereign entity unto yourself. So,
I know,
but yeah,
in theory it sounds nice, like because sometimes we have laws we don't agree with. So like, yeah, it doesn't apply to me, judge. Sorry, I'm a sovereign citizen. But in reality, it just doesn't really work in society. So
it's interesting, and I love learning every day. So I learned something new today. I can check that off my box, and now I've got another rabbit hole I can go chase down. So, well, let me ask you a totally separate side note. I mentioned earlier that you're involved with the Nashville Bar Association High School Mock Trial Competition. Given your role in the organization, what do you think the young aspirants are going to be learning from doing mock trial? Do you think a lot of them are going to consider a legal career that wouldn't have before? And tell me about your involvement. How did that start? What do you do? And give me the pros and cons,
I
or at least
think,
the pros.
yeah, so there's a lot of pros. I am on the board for Nashville Bar Association Young Lawyers Division, and I was the co-committee chair of the mock trial committee. And we put on the mock trial for Davidson County every year. This past year it was in February, and 20 high school teams in Davidson County competed. It was at the historic courthouse downtown, and it is so rewarding and endearing to see all these young kids dressed up as lawyers and pretending, and for all intents and purposes, they speak like lawyers. They're trained, their coaches are either lawyers or former judges or what have you. So they object, they ask, may I approach the bench? So it's really like you're in court, but it's really cute because obviously they're nervous. But there's some really good ones who are like way better in court than I was at that age. Wasn't in court at that age, but I would never have been as skilled as they were at high school age. But the pros are, I think it teaches the kids a lot of discipline. I think it inspires them. I think it shows them kind of a glimpse into how cases are done. They're assigned either plaintiff or defense. If it's a civil case, the state or the defense, which it would be a defendant, criminal defendant. So they're assigned either a civil case or a criminal case. As far as the fact patterns go, they're assigned it, and they learn a lot about how the system works and how you prove evidence and put on witnesses and how you question them. So I think it gives a lot of, if anything, if they don't become lawyers, it gives a huge glimpse into how the legal system works and what it looks like to put on a case from opening statements to closing statements, which they do as well. And there's a jury, there's like people who volunteer, a lot of other people on the board of National Bar Association Young Lawyers Division. They volunteer as jurors, or they're the judge, or my husband was a bailiff this year. He's not a lawyer, so he was in the bailiff position, where he would like grab exhibits from them when they tried to publish them to the jury. He would hand them to the jury. So it's like a whole real kind of setting, and I think it really gets kids excited about the law and as excited as you can be, but it really shows a glimpse into how our system works, our civil justice system and criminal justice system works, and it inspires them, for those who want to be lawyers, to just keep honing those skills.
Gotcha. That's awesome. I remember I did Model UN in high school, but I don't think I learned anything from it. So it sounds like these people are getting a much better experience than I got, but that's life, right? I want to be respectful of your time. I know we're coming up at the end of our time together. I'll ask one more question now, and then we'll probably jump into our final two. I had a couple of questions I want to ask, but we'll trim it up here. I know that you've got your degrees in communication and media studies. Does that ever play a role in the courtroom?
Not really. I mean,
I don't know if you ever put together some sort of like crazy visual media presentation to sway a jury, or.
That's a good question. I did a lot of PowerPoints, but I feel like I learned how to do PowerPoints before college. I feel like as far as like marketing goes for my firm and like PR stuff, as far as like how to promote myself and my business, like I feel like a lot of that is relevant from what I learned in college. I minored in creative writing, so a lot of like and I did write a lot in my major as well. So a lot of the writing skills, you write a lot as an attorney, although it's different kind of format, but I feel like that channeled over in a sense. I remember the writing that I would learn in some journalism classes I had to take for my public relations major. We learned to write very succinctly, and so I feel like that's the goal as well when you write briefs and stuff to judges. Although it's long motions sometimes that you're writing, the judges want you to just get to the point and be succinct in what you're saying. And I'm still working on that, because I love to just like word vomit and like tell the whole story. So I'm still learning to be more succinct, but that was something that the writing skills for my major channel over into, how I write and as a lawyer, and as well as the marketing skills that I learned and how to be creative there and promoting myself in my business. So that's what I would say to that.
No, that's good. Those are good skills to have. And, it opens up a lot of doors, and that's really kind of neat that you can do that. Well, here in a minute, I'm going to ask you my last two questions. I gave you a little pre-runner about those, but just to remind you, and my audience already knows what they are. Question number one is, if we were to go back in time, meet a young Devon, and you could give her some advice other than buy a lot of Bitcoin, hold till 60K, right? You can give yourself some practical advice. What advice would you give yourself and why? And if I were to give you my magic pen and you could strike a law from the books, edit a law that's on the books, or add a new law to the books, what law would you add and why? While you're percolating on that, we're going to jump over, take a look at your site. Again, I'm speaking with Devon Williamson of the law firm that bears her name, DevonLaw. DevonLawTN.com is the URL. Down below is the link for that in the description down below. I'm assuming she offers a free consultation. So if you've been injured in the Tennessee area, she sounds like she would be a wonderful resource for you. You can also call 615-623-0232. We'll also have that in the description down below as well. Our final sponsor today is Rank with News. Is not being featured in the news regularly costing your firm or company credibility and visibility? Do you feel that getting found in Google search is more about dumb luck than science? Rank with News. If there is a guaranteed way to get your law firm or business featured in major national publications like Yahoo News, Forbes, Bloomberg, and others, and see those articles rank locally, even nationally, sometimes in under 8 hours for major competitive keywords that people were already looking for, what else would you need to know? Rank with News is simply the most powerful way to hit page 1 in under 2 weeks safely, organically, and often permanently. This is essentially guaranteed SEO, or search engine optimization, on steroids, ranking quickly and sticking sometimes indefinitely. If you're tired of poor visibility for your business, visit rankwith.news or rankwithnews.com to learn more and book a time to speak with a specialist about featuring your firm or your business in major national 8-figure traffic sites that can launch you to page 1 in a matter of hours and help you dominate your local marketplace. Get media exposure, rank higher in Google, build credibility, and win more customers and clients with rankwithnews.com. All right, so Devon, we travel back in time and we meet a young Devon, and you're able to go give her a really quick piece of advice before the space-time continuum swallows us whole. What advice do you give yourself and why?
I give myself advice to be patient and have grace, because I always felt like, even starting off practicing law, I wanted to be like the best. I wanted to be the most well known. I wanted to win all my trials. I wanted to just already climb the top of the totem pole. And I think there's a lot of merit in just taking a step back and letting yourself be a sponge and like absorb things and learn and realize like everyone goes through the stage of being a new baby lawyer, and just learn what you can. You could use the baby lawyer as an excuse as well. There's that side of things, but I wish I just didn't put so much pressure on myself, and because I always knew it was going to work. I always wish I knew that it was going to work. I guess I always knew that, but I wish I lived accordingly and didn't constantly put pressure on myself to be the best, because there is a lot of merit and a lot of peace in just like living in the present moment. You're a new lawyer, learn as much as you can, because you will be the best one day. You just have to go through all the steps and give yourself grace along the way. That's what I would tell myself.
That is not bad advice. That's good advice really for anybody out there. So give yourself some grace. Be patient. Speaking of grace, I have a magic pen, and this pen actually came from a bunch of monks who live in Kansas. Their website is kansasmonks.org. They're a group of Benedictines. I found this pen, and apparently one of the priests had blessed it in a special way, because this pen can change laws. So Devon, if I gave you this pen and you were able to strike one law from the books, edit a law that's on the books, or add a new law to the books, and this can be a tiny little law that just is dumb and frustrates you and makes you fill out forms in triplicate 8 times a week, or this can be a major law with sweeping national or even international ramifications. You can only make one change. What change are you going to make and why?
Well, the change I really want to make is probably too political to say on here, but
you are free to be as political as you would like to be. I keep my half of the show apolitical for the sake of my clients, but you're welcome to let your political flag shine as much as you want or not want.
That's for another day. There's more where that came from, but for now, this is important law that I wish I could erase for change. So in Tennessee, personal injury claimants have 1 year from the date of the accident to file a lawsuit. I have found that a lot of my clients are still treating and finding out like the nature and extent of their injuries, like what do their injuries look like? Are they permanent? Are they ever going to get better? They're still approaching that 1 year mark, and they're still doing physical therapy or orthopedic treatment twice a week, and they're still figuring out like what the long lasting ramifications are of these accidents. And so not all the time in 1 year do you know where you stand medically speaking or not. And it puts a lot of pressure on us to file suit, when I think a lot of more, which I have no qualms filing suit, but I think a lot of the cases that I do file suit on, because they're still treating a year in, could be easily resolved pre-suit. But now we've opened the can of worms of litigation, which is so much more stressful for my clients. When the facts, the liability is clear, it's clear that my person was not at fault. We could have resolved this without filing a lawsuit, but because of the 1 year, we're running up against, a severe deadline. We got to file, and then it just draws out the whole thing so much longer, when my deserving clients, really deserve to have, a resolution that is not dragged out, but they're forced to have it that way. Because usually when you file a lawsuit, you're looking at a long road ahead before you see any compensation. So I would expand the 1 year statute of limitations in Tennessee, because I just don't think it's enough time to figure out all the damages that can happen from a catastrophic event, such as a car wreck or whatever the situation may be. So that's what I would say to that. That's my non-political answer, but truthful answer too.
That's a good answer. And that directly affects your clients on a very regular basis. And 1 year is not a long time. Back in college, some 20 odd years ago for me, my wife was in a car accident. And to this day, we're still finding issues that she didn't even realize she had. And, it takes you hitting your 40s before you're like, oh, yeah, that's not working. And that's why that's not working. So it is unfortunate. I understand statute of limitation to some extent, but I do think that 1 year seems incredibly short. I know other places it's 2 or 3 years, so that does seem excessively short. So, well, Devon, thank you very much for taking time with me today and talking with my listeners. I always like to give my guests the last word. Do you have any parting words of wisdom, advice, or anything else you'd like to share with our listeners before we go?
Just really, well, thank you, Justin, for having me. This has been awesome. Just really, I'm trying to, and as you kind of mentioned, I think in the very beginning, like, we want to humanize the law. We want to humanize lawyers more. We want to make it more approachable, more understandable for people. And so to that, I would say, not all lawyers, clearly I'm not in a suit, I don't have my heels kicked up in front of you. There's open arms here. Everyone's welcome in my office. I'm here to help.
Even the sovereign citizen. No,
yeah, no, honestly, like if they get it, but then they might not want to avail themselves of the civil laws. The coin, it's both ways, there. But anyways, not all lawyers are bad. There's a lot of us out there who are genuinely like there to help you, have your best interests in mind, and walk with you every step of the way. And what I've been trying to show the public is you can be yourself, you can be empathetic, you can show emotion, you can be who you are and be a great advocate. And I think I have found that juries and my clients and the public, that really being that way garners trust with them more, because they have a lawyer who not only knows the law very well and is very hardworking and strong, but is also like fun, compassionate, humorous, and can really see all the emotional parts of it, and let the clients feel comfortable feeling that way. So I think hopefully there's a shift in the way lawyers are seen and do things, and I'm trying to open that door and show people that every day. So that's
Awesome.
my good sense.
Well, it sounds like you do a pretty good job of doing that. So very good on that. Well, Devon, thank you very much for talking with us today. This has been The Attorney Post. I've been talking with attorney Devon Williamson of the eponymous law firm that bears her name, DevonLawTN.com or DevonLaw PLLC. As always, though we do talk about a lot of legal context on this podcast does not constitute legal advice. And if you have a legal issue, you should always seek the advice of a competent attorney in your area who specializes on a matter that you need help with. However, if you live in Tennessee Tennessee and you've been injured, having had this great conversation with Devon, I can say she would be a wonderful resource. So do feel free to reach out to her. Again, we'll have her links and phone number and everything else down below. Go read her great reviews. She had a couple of really lovely ones on there as well. She takes them very, very seriously. This is the Attorney Post. I'm your host, Justin West. If you're watching this on YouTube, we always appreciate a like, a subscribe, a share, or a comment. If you're on any of the other podcast platforms that are out there, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, Audible, whatever they are, Apple iTunes, feel free to like us, rate us, whatever they like to do. And obviously, if you know someone who's been injured, particularly in the state of Tennessee, feel free to share this episode with them because it can help them get the help that they need and get things back to normal. Until next time, this is Justin West reminding you, if you don't know your rights, you don't have any. Thanks for listening, guys, and bye-bye.